Hey, Brian here with NetChecklist.com. This is a February 2017 video where I'm going to talk about some of the new features I've added to the application in the last several months. So the application is still kind of a work in process, and I do use it daily in my businesses. So as I see new things that I think would make it more usable, I add them. So here I am logged in again as my fictional user Bob Broker, who's a member of the fictional real estate company Ready Real Estate, and I've got a few tasks on his task list here. The first thing that if you're using the application you've seen differently is that a lot of the task details are hidden, and instead you have this button to expand or collapse task details, and if you click that to expand you see all of the details for that task. Basically it was starting to get a little bit long, and I had someone else mention, hey, that's a lot to scroll through, and you don't use all of that stuff all that often. So basically I displayed what you need to know: the task name, which project it's from, and whether the task is complete or not, and everything else is hidden behind the task details. So here's where you still can delete a task. You can still make it sleep for a number of days, basically go away and show up X number of days later. You can filter the task list to exclude tasks with that task name. You can see which checklist it was copied from and on which date, who it's assigned to, the task description, any project or task notes. I'll come to that in a minute. You can edit the task or add any task notes. Now, if you want to see those, let's say if you prefer to see all of that stuff, that's fine. If you come up here under your task sort and display options and come down here, there's this display collapsed task details. The default is yes collapse, so if I change that to no do not collapse, then they're all going to display expanded, and if you prefer to work that way, that's great. You can do that. The only thing is, right now where I've made that change, if you log out and log back in, it's going to go back to being collapsed. If you want it to display expanded all of the time, every time you log in, go over here to your user settings, and down at the bottom, display collapse task details. You'd want to set that to no do not collapse and update your user information, and then you would always see them expanded. So let me go back and reset that. Yes, do collapse and update. Now, when you're in this, like let's say if you want to, let's say you wanted to delete this task, you didn't want to mark it complete, okay? But if you do that and it's hidden, it is still there, okay? So I said delete it is yes, and that's there, and I can prove that because if I process updates, it says one task was deleted right there, okay? So it still works even if you go back there. So like let's say if you say I want this one to sleep and you collapse that again, and you want to delete this one and you collapse that, when you process, they're still going to get processed like they're supposed to, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, next, one of the things under the task details is the task description. And basically the task description gets copied from the checklist. Those are things you can add in the checklist. And the idea is that you can put a much more detailed description of what someone's supposed to do in the task, with this task, in the task description. You want to keep your task name relatively short, but for a more detailed description you can put that here. And it's hidden back here, so what I thought is in some cases you don't want to have to go look to see is there a description or not, and go through each one. That would be a pain. So what I did is, if there's a description, this note right here, expand task details to see task description below, that only shows up if there is anything in the description. It doesn't matter if it's long or short. So like this one, there is a description and it says that. These two don't have that, and there is no task description there. So if you see that, that's an indication that there is something in the description and you may want to look at it. Okay, next, you hopefully know that in the application, tasks can be dependent on other tasks, and that's when one task can't be completed until another task or tasks have been completed. And when you mark things complete, it's going to tell you, if it marks something, if it activates something based on that, one task was activated. But what I was running into is if I had a long list of tasks on my task list, it might say, okay, well, 5 10 were marked complete and 7 were activated. But then I'd be thinking, okay, well, I've got 30 on my list, which 7 were activated? So I'm scrolling through my list trying to figure out, okay, well, wait, which 7 were activated? And you're trying to remember what was, was that there before or not? I can't remember. So now I'm going to mark a couple of these complete. I'll just mark all those complete, and I will process updates. And now it says 3 were activated, and all of these say just activated. So when they're just activated, they show up and it says that. So that gives you a way to tell, yes, this is one of the ones that was just activated. I might not have marked all of them complete. Now that only happens for one time, one refresh, because if I actually refresh the screen by going up here and just clicking my home button, those 3 tasks will be there still, but they're not saying just activated. And the reason I did that is because if you process some and it says 7 were activated, just say you can go through and see which 7 they were. But let's say you mark, I don't know, 5 or 6 more tasks complete, and you process again, and this time it says, well, 9 were activated. If the 7s from before still said just activated, then you'd be trying to figure out, well, wait, which 7 were there from last time and which 9 are the new ones? So it's only a one-shot deal. It's only that one time. I've been using it that way, and I think that works well. I don't think it needs to keep displaying that they're just activated. Okay, next, you probably also know that by default, the application only displays uncompleted tasks, and it actually tells you that right here, uncompleted tasks only, that's the default. But you can come under your task sort and filter settings, and let's say if I wanted to see both completed and uncompleted tasks, I can update my settings. Up here it says both completed and uncompleted tasks, but you need to know which ones have been completed and which ones have not been completed. Now, you always knew before under task complete, this one says yes, this one says no, this one says yes, so you can tell there. But I added 2 more things. This one that says yes, it says right here, marked complete on 2/13/17, and second, the text has a strike through on it. So it's strike through text. That makes it to me even more obvious. I found you could be trying to scroll through something fast and you might miss looking at this button to see if it was complete or not, or even this, but the strike through text I don't think you're going to miss. So if you see the strike through, you know it's been marked complete. Okay, next, task notes and project notes. Those have been there before. Right here, you see this was for the Project 123 Anywhere Drive, and it says Edit Project Notes. And notice if I hover over it, it says click here to add or edit notes for this project. If I click on that, this will be something that has to do with that overall project, not with that task, but with that project. And you could even have multiple checklists that you're working on for that project, but these are things that have to do with the project, no matter which task or checklist they're for. So I'm going to just put it here. Okay, so I added, these are some project notes, and now 2 things. When I hover over this now, it still says click here to add or edit notes for this project, but it also says project notes. These are some project notes, and I added that there because without expanding these details, I wanted to keep this as short as possible, but you can hover over it and see what they are. But also, if you expand your task details now, you do see project notes. These are some project notes, and that's in bold. Now, so that's project notes. Task notes are the same thing, but they would be for that particular task. And if you click task notes, I can just say, I'll just say task notes. Okay. And now when you come under here, you also see task notes. I don't have it on here when you hover. That would just be redundant because you're already you already had to expand your task details to see it. It's not like up here. I thought about adding, if task notes up here somewhere, but I'm trying to keep that as short as possible. So maybe if you have some thoughts on that, feel free to give me some feedback. Okay, so that's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching and have a great day.